Biden's missile decision, a political game disguised as foreign policy. President Joe Biden's decision to send advanced missiles and weaponry to Ukraine in its ongoing conflict with Russia has raised significant questions about the true motivations behind this move. While the administration frames this decision as a step to defend democracy and support Ukraine, a deeper analysis suggests otherwise. It appears this choice is less about American interests or global stability, and more about domestic political ambitions, specifically to weaken the Republican Party and tarnish former President Donald Trump's reputation. Not an American interest, but a political move. The Biden administration has poured billions of dollars into military aid for Ukraine, including sending controversial long-range missiles, which many critics argue is escalating the conflict rather than seeking peace. However, these decisions seem to have little connection to advancing American interests. They neither address domestic economic challenges, such as inflation or energy dependence, nor do they contribute to global stability. Instead, this strategy may serve the Democratic Party's internal goals. President Donald Trump famously claimed he could end the Ukraine-Russia war within 24 hours by brokering a peace agreement. Biden's continued escalation undermines the plausibility of such a promise, creating a political narrative to discredit Trump's leadership credentials. Rather than seeking a resolution, Biden's actions prolong the conflict, casting Trump's statements as overly simplistic or naive, even though millions of Americans resonate with his pragmatic approach, weakening Republicans for long-term Democratic Party's gains. Biden's approach aligns with a broader Democratic Party strategy of undermining the Republican Party. By framing the Ukraine conflict as a moral imperative and labeling Republicans as isolationist or anti-democratic for opposing it, Democrats aim to paint themselves as the sole guardians of global justice. This tactic helps distract from pressing domestic parties' failures under Biden's administration, including rising crime rates, economic struggles, and border insecurity. Moreover, the allocation of American resources to Ukraine creates a wedge issue among Republicans, dividing more interventionist factions from those advocating for restraint. This division weakens the party's cohesion ahead of critical elections, giving Democrats a strategic advantage. The risks: global and domestic chaos. Biden's politically motivated decisions have far-reaching consequences. By sending advanced weaponry to Ukraine, the administration escalates the conflict, making diplomacy increasingly difficult. This not only risks dragging the United States closer to direct confrontation with Russia, but also destabilizes Europe as the war continues to devastate the continent economically and politically. Energy shortages, inflation, and migration crises are hitting European countries hard, yet Biden shows little concern for the strain his policies place on America's allies. Domestically, the financial burden of funding Ukraine's war effort is met with growing frustration among Americans who see crumbling infrastructure and limited healthcare funding at home. This disconnect between Biden's priorities and the American people's needs is eroding trust in his administration, exposing the hollowness of his claims to act in the nation's interest. A reckless decision not backed by experts. Importantly, Biden's missile decision appears to lack the strategic depth that would come from careful consultation with think tanks or foreign policy experts. The deep state, or bipartisan foreign policy establishment, often accused of guiding American international actions, is conspicuously absent in this narrative. Instead, Biden's move seems to be a personal or partisan calculation driven by short-term political gains rather than long-term strategic thinking. Historically, major American foreign policy decisions have been supported by a broad consensus among experts and institutions. This is not the case here. Even seasoned diplomats have warned that escalating military support for Ukraine risks global peace. Yet, Biden and the Democratic Party press forward, ignoring these warnings in favor of political theatrics, destroying world peace and Europe's stability. Biden's decisions have disastrous implications for world peace. By escalating the Ukraine war, the U.S. not only risks provoking greater Russian aggression, but also jeopardizes the fragile global order. European nations, already struggling with energy crises and economic challenges, bear the brunt of this prolonged conflict. Biden's approach offers no clear path to peace, only more destruction and division. Instead of fostering diplomacy, Biden's administration fans the flames of war, undermining Europe's stability while claiming moral superiority. This is a short-sighted approach that sacrifices international harmony for domestic political points. The Democrats' focus on discrediting Trump and weakening Republicans is coming at the expense of global peace. Joe Biden's decision to send missiles to Ukraine is not a calculated move in the interest of the United States or global stability. It is a politically motivated gambit aimed at discrediting Donald Trump and weakening the Republican Party. This reckless policy escalates the Ukraine-Russia conflict, destabilizes Europe, and undermines world peace, all for the sake of partisan advantage. The American people and the world at large deserve leaders who prioritize peace and prosperity over political gamesmanship.